What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 141. Today, I have the privilege of spending time with a superhuman. He's using his life to be of great service to the world in helping people discover true happiness, and is the founder of Access Consciousness, a powerful movement to help you thrive in life. His powerful statement really does make you think, what if you are the difference the world needs? Dain is an internationally renowned author, speaker, and facilitator of consciousness and change. For over 20 years, he's been inviting people to embrace true greatness, people from every culture, country, and age. In his talks and workshops, he uses a unique set of tools and provides step-by-step energetic processes to get people out of the answers, conclusions, and judgments that are keeping them stuck in a cycle of no choice and no change, leading them into the moments of awe that have the power to change anything. So guys, please let me welcome to the Luke Mind Power podcast, Dr. Dain Heer.
Luke, what a pleasure it is to be with you.
Absolutely, Doctor. It's a blessing. It's honestly, it's a blessing to be alive. It's a blessing to connect with you. And I really look forward to discovering your greatness of, how you evolved and how you stepped into this power, because you're changing people's lives. And it's a massive inspiration to me, and I'm sure everybody listening as well.
Thank you. Well, for me, I think that's the greatest gift that we can be, is seeing the gift that other people are and doing what we can to empower them to whatever degree they're willing to have it, to become the greatness of them. And we live in a world where mediocre seems to be good enough for most, and which is fine. It's like, if that's your thing, that's your thing, but we're not necessarily doing ourselves or others a service or a contribution by not seeing the greatness of them and not doing what we can to acknowledge it so that they can see it too.
Absolutely. I think the one, we'll start off with this. You're going to die.
Yep. True story.
It's true. We are like, and it's like people are holding on to what they've known or what they've been, and they're too afraid to let that go, to step into what they could be, or to step into, and not realizing the potential of what we have. So let's go back to, obviously, how this all started for you, because there must have been a time where you didn't believe in yourself, or think that you could be more, or think that you could step into your greatness, or appreciate or understand how much potential there was in your own life, or what you were really capable of achieving. So share with us a little bit about how you really woke up to your greatness and figured all of this out, because I can appreciate it from my own 4 years of experience of growth and what I've done in the last 4 years. So take us into a little bit of your journey.
Yeah, well, I think you said it appropriately. You're going to die. Except for me, I was at a place 22 years ago where I set a date to end my life, and I was done. I was tired of struggling, but it was the first time in my 30 years on the planet where I'd truly given up hope. I experienced a lot of abuse growing up. I experienced a lot of physical abuse, sexual abuse, emotional abuse, constant invalidation of and gaslighting, and a lot of that. But even with all of that, even while I was being beaten quite literally, I remember having in my head, it doesn't have to be this way, and I'm going to find a different way. And so I lived my life from that perspective, but I didn't have any great level of success. I didn't seem to be creating the change that I wanted to. I became a chiropractor because I wanted to create change in people's bodies and hopefully their lives, and didn't seem to be doing that very well. So here I am, I'm opening my second chiropractic practice. I'm living in Santa Barbara, California, which looks like paradise. I've got a girlfriend that everybody thinks is perfect for me, and I'm dying inside, and I've been unhappy for the better part of 3 years. And I have been doing everything under the sun. I've got 5 books on personal development, money, spirituality, everything that I could find, metaphysics, anything, because I knew had to be something else possible. And I would also be going to weekend workshops. And I can't tell you the number of times I'd go to a weekend workshop, and by Sunday night, I was like, yay, I finally have the answer. I can be happy now, which is really all I was looking for. And then by Wednesday of the following week, the universe would cave back in on my head. And I still remember the moment where it happened. I went to a weekend workshop. I was like, yay, I finally have the answer. And literally on Wednesday morning, the universe caved in on my head. And I remember giving up hope for the first time in my life. And I was done. I said, universe, I'm done. I've been trying everything I can. You got 6 months. Either my life truly changes or I'm out of here. And I set a date, and I knew what, and I knew how, and I was going to be out of here. And that was 22 years ago. Apparently the universe had other plans, right? And so it's funny that it makes me cry. It's like, I know this, I know this story. I've told it before. But so what happened was I came across Access Consciousness. I saw a little ad for it, and the ad said, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. And I was like, you have no idea what my life is like. I hate you. Anyway, I called, because if you love it or hate it, there's something there for you. And I went and I had a session of something called Access Consciousness bars. It's this light touch technique that's done on the head. And I laid down, and this lady's putting her hands on my head. I've never met her before. And I start giggling like a little kid. There's this energy of peace that I hadn't felt in years. And then I start giggling like a little kid. An hour and 15 minutes later, I went into the session depressed and suicidal with a date to end my life. And I came out of it with a sense of gratitude for being alive. And I knew I was never going to go back to that place again in an hour and 15 minutes. And that moment was where I went, and I'm in. If it can change this fast, and not to say that all my problems went away, but the fundamental black thing in my world went away. And I knew if it could change that fast, and feel this amazing to be alive, I am in, I'm ready to live. But not only that, man, I want to do what I can to let other people know this is possible. So here I am 22 years later. And, when I started, we were in 3 countries around the world. We're now in 179. And we had a toolbox that was like this, that was very effective, but very small. And now, we have thousands of topics we address. I mean, it's been an amazing blessing to be on this journey and follow it from the place of empowering people continuously, doing what we can to see the greatness of them and have it rise to the surface so they can choose it.
Wow, that's amazing. The darkness of feeling, everything comes from your feeling, right? Your emotions, you how you feel within yourself to get to that place of, I'm done, even setting a date, like as if, this is it's on your schedule,
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And to get to that point where, you're ready, but then you find something that, that you found that kind of connected with you, and that you obviously, there had to be obviously some sort of belief as well that, I'm doing something intentionally that could possibly help me, and you've really connected with it, and it did kind of wake you up. So now you realize, as you overcome what you were dealing with, that, being of service to other people, because there's so many people in the world that are dealing with pain and trauma and negative programming, so I think it's incredible, obviously, what you've done. And 22 years later, you haven't given up on your journey. And now you get to obviously continuously be of service to others and help other people wake up to their greatness. So Dr. Dain, with your experience of 22 years now, you've obviously worked with so many people. What is because not everybody's been, is it everyone that is limiting themselves, or that is living in their fears and living in mediocrity? Is everyone been through trauma or abuse, or what are the main areas of why people come to you, or why people are living in our limitations?
Well, people come to me and they come to Access. I mean, we have over 10,000 facilitators around the world. So they come for so many reasons, but most of them they know there's more. And the way we truly have most people find Access is by having a friend who's had a change in something they never thought was changeable. And they're like, what are you doing? I do this weird stuff called Access. I want to try it, and that's how we've grown, throughout the world, by word of mouth primarily. But it's like, it speaks dynamically to people who know there's more, who desire more. And also, though, there are a lot of people who have never considered themselves seekers or searchers or whatever you want to call them, who just also are like, there's got to be more. And that really is sort of the if there is a basis to the people that show up. But it's an interesting thing, because from my point of view, what creates that sense that is with so many of this nagging sort of heaviness or wrongness or something, this nagging sense that something needs to be different, something is wrong, from my point of view, is basically in the fact that we grow up in a world based on judgment, and we carry it with us all the time. And we think that is somehow a valid way of coming to awareness, or a valid criterion for choice, or a valid construct at all from which to create our lives and our relationships. But it's actually not. So we've got nonstop this little judgment monster in our heads, usually, who's trying to get us to navigate based on a world that's been divided into right and wrong, good and bad, black and white, and that's it. And that's not us. And one of the ideas with Access is you're an infinite being. Okay, well, and by the way, I'm a big believer in tools. So I like to, sprinkle tools throughout whenever possible. And one of the greatest tools we can have is what's true for us always makes us lighter. A lie will always make us heavier. So, if I say something like you're an infinite being and you get lighter, or you get that sense of peace that comes with like, oh yeah, that, or you just kind of go, oh, you settle in, then that's true, even if it's not something you ever considered before. But as an infinite being, would we judge? The answer, of course, is no. We would just know. We wouldn't have to go through the mental gyrations of judgment. We wouldn't have to go through checklists to try to figure things out and see what's right and never choose what's wrong and judge us continuously if we're not perfect enough, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so it's basically the fundamental. Can you hear my peacock? I literally have a white peacock who lives in my yard, and I call him Zazzle. And he, whenever I'm on an interview, he's like, yeah. So just wanted to introduce himself. So, it's fundamentally that we've grown up living in a world based on judgment, that we think we have to somehow navigate that world. We have to navigate that reality rather than creating our own, rather than creating something beyond it. And the people that really start embracing the awareness of, wait a minute, I can actually live on my terms. Those are people who you would think that if you would get there, if you would stop judging you, if you'd actually like yourself, then, we're taught that you somehow become an arrogant person who it's all about you and you don't contribute to anybody else. That's actually not true. The arrogant assholes that don't contribute to anybody else are so stuck in judgment that that's where their life is. The people that actually have a sense of self, a sense of gratitude for themselves, a willingness to honor themselves, are the people that are actually there for others in really dynamic ways. And so we've got the whole thing turned around 180 degrees, and we're trying to do something trying to live a life that very often doesn't have very much to do with us. It's trying to get the life right that everybody else thinks we should have.
Yeah, I think what you're sharing is really powerful in terms of everything starts with yourself. And when you learn to really, have this self-compassion, self-love, appreciation for yourself, and also obviously, have gone through this journey of, awakening or transformation, healing within yourself. When you look at others, I mean, I know myself as a coach, and with, someone who wasn't in a relationship with myself for many years, because I was very disconnected and very influenced by people around me. I lived in a lot of fear and doubt and insecurities, never felt like I was good enough. And so now, because I've taken the time to say, hey, you know what, I've given my life to everyone, but I haven't never spent time or taken the time to get to know me. Who am I? And it's crazy to look at the last 4 years that I've gone through and wonder, well, why have things evolved? Why have I changed so much? Because I looked inwards, because I gave myself more attention, because I said yes to me. So now when I work with others, all I see is compassion, appreciation, empathy, love, understanding, because I've gone through it within myself, and, I hear where you're coming from, because that's the power of, the work that you do on yourself, which then gives you the ability to be able to help others. Which is phenomenal. But take us into the appreciation of consciousness for everyone. Maybe some people hearing this for the first time, but what is it, and what is the power of it? With what you teach.
I love that question. Well, so we actually, in Access Consciousness, we have a definition of consciousness, which is where everything exists and nothing is judged. Where everything and everyone exists and no one and nothing is judged. And it's really simple. But if you look at that, the power that is within that and functioning from that, what it actually gives you is the capacity to change anything. And not just the capacity to change a problem, but the capacity to explore possibilities that don't appear to exist for others. Because the reason I alluded to judgment and the world of judgment being our greatest limiting factor, and what gets us into this lack of relationship or communion or connection with self and others, is because judgment is not just, oh, wow, you look like crap in that suit. That's not, judgment is where we eliminate anything that doesn't match a judgment from our coming into our awareness or our reality. And if you look at that, and you also, I mean, we could both acknowledge that most people have a dynamic element of their reality that was created by their parents. In other words, growing up around these particular people with these particular points of view, because we're such energetic beings that we pick up on their energetic structure of reality, which is what dictates everything else. We pick up on that and we carry that with us moving forward. And what that basically is a dynamic series of judgments. It's basically program after program of how reality is. We buy those points of view about how reality is, and now we're stuck going, oh, this is reality. And like the way it works, just a real simple example, if somebody decides, let's say they grow up, like I grew up and one part of my family was extremely poor. The other side was middle class. And they were always having their arguments about who was better. The side with middle class was like, we're better because we have money. The side over here was like, we're better because we don't need money like you people. So I grew up confused as can be, okay? Confused AF when it came to money. But one of the points of view my one side of the family had was that money is a struggle and you have to really work hard for it. So almost every single family member had very little money and was working very hard to try to get it and always felt like it was slipping out of their fingers. Why? Because they learned that from their parents who grew up during the Depression, who passed it on to them. So that became their point of view of reality. And now they see it show up and they go, see, I knew it was hard to come by. I knew it was a struggle. I knew it would go away if I had any. But over here, you have people who didn't have that same life experience, who have the point of view that it's easy, or I can create it, or my creation will lead to money or whatever. And that's what they have show up. And so you find out that it's people's points of view and primarily their judgments. So what I say is it's your point of view that creates your reality. Reality does not create your point of view, but it's the point of view that you take that determines the reality that shows up. Now, the beauty of it is, so it talks about judgment and point of view, but what most people believe is that their strongest judgment is their strongest point of view. But in actuality, most people's strongest judgment, which is what determines their reality, because nothing that doesn't match it could come into their world, is something they bought from somebody else before they could even talk. And so here we are in a world in which people have no clue who they are. Knowing something different should be possible, but seeing very few people actually heading toward it or expressing it or choosing it in a way that really sits with us having more of us. And so that for me is like, that's why I created, International Being You Day. It's like, I wanted us to explore us, because us exploring us is not selfish. Us exploring us is one of the greatest gifts we can give the world.
Yeah, I love that. The truth of what you just shared is phenomenal, because this is the challenge, right? And this is the question of asking yourself, are you really you? And
what is you?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because
yeah,
it's got to be an exploration, because we assume that I woke up, therefore I'm me. I'm alive today, so I'm me. But most of us are walking around having no clue who we are, and we've never been invited to explore it. And as though us exploring it is somehow wrong, because we must have missed the memo that told us who we were and we're bad and wrong. Why do we need to explore it?
But Dr. Dain, the challenge that I believe is that we have such strong mental programming that, habits, for example, you've been who you've been for so many years, and it's so like ingrained, it's almost like it's in your DNA, that when it comes to change, when it comes to, really evolving and becoming someone you've never been before, there's this resistance. And
it's not only ours, it's everybody around us also. And this is the thing we very seldom comment on, is that in actuality, we might really be willing to change, but our boyfriend, our girlfriend, our brother, our sister, our friends, our family are going to be like, what are you doing? You're in a cult. You changed too much. What is that crazy shit you're doing? You're not the same person you were. And you're like, I know, that's the point. I hated that person. They're like, yeah, but you fit into my box perfectly. What are you doing? Changing the box, bro. Get back in the box.
Yeah. And that is also, again, it's not just the resistance of your mind or you being that version of yourself for so many years, but it's the resistance of the people around you. Because again, what is that? Let's touch on that for a second. Why can't people just be happy for you? Why can't people just say, you know what? Wow, you're doing something. Looks like you're happy. Looks like you enjoy what you're doing. Looks like you want to change.
Yeah.
Well, congratulations. Go for it. Looking forward to seeing what you become. But instead, there's this pullback of like, oh no, don't do that. Don't change. Don't grow.
So I would say two reasons why. One is when we change dynamically, we inadvertently see people desire to have their realities validated, their choice validated for who they are and how they are. And if you look at it, most people that consider themselves friends with others, they usually have a similar financial status. They usually have a similar relationship status. There's a lot of statuses that are similar. And based on having to have a copacetic vibration, basically, where your tuning forks are matching in vibration, if you start changing your tuning forks vibration, people start feeling like you're invalidating and in some cases attacking the rightness of their reality by the choice that you're making. Like, hey, why don't you get it that we are this and this and this? And it's such a recipe for maintaining hive mind and herd mentality. And that's where most people are functioning. And let's look at it. I mean, social media, for example, is a great example of curate everything so other people will judge you appropriately. And here we are. This is not just social media at a distance. This is the people that we have a lot closer. And so their reality, basically, their point of view about reality gets threatened, if you will. And they don't know what to do with that because it puts them into question, but they didn't want to be in question. Most people would rather be right for the limitation and the point of view they have than explore the possibility that they don't know. And so we're dealing with that. And then the other thing is, most people don't actually have a generosity of spirit, which is generosity of spirit is you see something great happen for somebody else and you're like, yahoo, that is so wonderful. I had a lady call me one time and she said, you're the only person I can tell this to because everybody else will be weird about it and they won't celebrate with me, but I just won $25,000. I went, yahoo, that's awesome. And she's like, yeah, and thank you for being the one person I can celebrate with. Everybody else would be like, why didn't I get it? So I'm not telling any of them. I'm going to buy them some nice gifts, but thank you for celebrating with me. And that is something that a lot of people are missing.
Yeah, which is a shame. But I mean, when you come from a place of love, for example, and that's why I believe that self-love and having this relationship with yourself basically then stems out to the world in the same form of that energy, right? So when you love yourself and you're happy for yourself and you want yourself to win, you want everyone to win. You want to see other people happy. And so it's, celebrating life, celebrating other people's victories. It's not comparing yourself to other people, realizing that when you learn to love yourself, you'll never want to be anyone else. And people tend to, deep down, not be happy for other people, but show up as if they are, right? Because they're scared that, like, for example, if you're growing or something, oh no, don't grow too much, stay on this level, right? When really it's like being happy for other people because, everybody has their own journey, and not everybody is the same. So I know that that's definitely a struggle because we get so used to what we know. And when something decides to change, there's this pullback and resistance. But what about the subconscious programming? What about the unconscious programming? What about, the mind of holding you back from change and the resistance? Is there forms of, let's say generational trauma as well, pain from many years ago that is really holding people down and limiting people from being able to evolve and transform their lives?
Oh, absolutely. So much. And see, we have one of the things that we have in Access is a lot of tools that help you change exactly that, because so many of us are walking around with exactly what you're talking about, whether it's generational trauma or which is a great way of putting it, us handing down our least desirable points of view to those who come after us, and also, though, I'd like to say that people like you, people like me, people out there that are getting to this place of actually having a level of caring, level of love and intimacy for themselves are actually changing it. We're stopping that pay it forward thing that has gone on for so long by people being so mired in the heaviness of what was. I just wanted to say that as a light point, because we're changing it. The world truly is changing. It's becoming a different place. A lot of people haven't noticed yet, but if you look for it, you'll see it. And you'll see more kindness. You'll see more sense of possibility. You'll see more connection. You'll see more caring from people that traditionally have been separate. But so this is there. And for me, there's so many ways of changing it. But for me, what I'm interested in is how do we hone in on for whatever's in front of you right now, whoever you are, okay? How do we hone in on the thing that's going to change the most, the quickest? Because if you get actual change, if you go from, like I did, for example, it's probably why I am such a big believer and a big desirer of massive change quickly, is because if you do that, you can no longer doubt that change is possible. And I met people who have been poor, who've been abused, who've been limited in every way you could imagine, who within a very short amount of time start waking up in a different space. And there's one lady that was in a class in London that I just did, who had been to several classes in Europe there, and she's been doing Access for 9 months. And when she found Access, she was living on the streets, doing drugs nonstop. And now she's actually, you should have seen her at the last class. It was a facilitator's class that we had. And she shows up in this business suit, and she's now bringing Access and bars, the thing that saved my life, to the corporate world. And I'm like, that is just one example of the kind of change that is possible. And we need some inspiration, we need some invitation, and we also need some tools, but also we need people out there who are talking about the fact that it is possible to change. And it doesn't, and we also need to get over the thing that certain people do in certain areas where they have walked the path. And so they want everybody to know how tough it was. So they want to make it tough on the people that come after them, which neither you are doing nor I'm doing. I just want to point it out. If somebody's trying if you're somebody who's looking to change something, and you've had people tell you how tough it's going to be and how impossible it's going to be, find someone else. Okay. Find someone else. Because one of the tools of Access is something, we call it our mantra, because we don't know what else to call it, which is, all of life comes to me with ease and joy and glory. And glory is exuberant expression and abundance. And if you'll just use that 10 times in the morning, 10 times in the evening, you'll notice something shift. With something that friggin' simple, the shift can start.
Absolutely. Dr. Dain, have you heard of the 4 agreements?
Yes, absolutely.
Be impeccable with your word. So that's something that, I've learned this early on, the power of your own spoken word, and obviously the power of what you pour into yourself, the power of what you're consuming, what you're thinking about, even what you're watching every single day. And that's why obviously you mentioned your environment and the people that you're surrounded by as well, and how much that actually has an impact on your life. In terms of that statement, be impeccable with your word, it's true what you're saying, but obviously, like you said, say it 10 times in the morning, say it 10 times at night, because what we're really doing is we're reframing our thought process. We're reframing our belief system. We're programming our mind, and which also makes it clear how powerful words are.
Truly.
Like how is that something that's really emphasized in Access, is the appreciation of, what your mind thinks now and what it can think in 6 months' time, because you decide to change your environment, or change the way you speak to yourself, or, you know, change the things that you're watching, for example, change your relationships, and who you can become. Is that something that you guys share? And you know, how quickly does it take for, because, you know, obviously you have your tools and your different workshops and stuff like that. How quickly do people change?
Uh, quicker than anything else I've ever seen. And I don't mean that as an invalidation of anything else I've ever seen. It's just that I did so many things before it that I've got quite a bit of experience and reference. Uh, I mean, I could tell you thousands of stories of people changing in an hour, people changing in a day, people changing because, you know, the bars class, learning how to do the bars, it's a 1-day class. You know, the next one after that is 4 days. And to see the change that occurs in 4 days is nothing short of miraculous. But it's the number of people who've come and taken a bars class because somebody else got some kind of change. And so they went with them, or they wanted to, you know, see what it was about. And I mean, the anxiety, I mean, we've done studies, and with one session of bars, you can get anxiety, stress, and depression relief, an average of 87% in an hour-long session. So this is, and it's just, but everybody's different. You know, it's like, how fast can somebody change? Really friggin' fast. But everybody's different. That choice is really up to them. You know, my job, or a facilitator's job, is to empower them as much as possible, but also to energetically hone in on, you know, get the noise out of the way, get the fluff out of the way, and energetically hone in on the thing that's truly creating the limitation, or getting in the way of the possibility, and then help them address that and change that. Because people don't most people don't do personal development just for the sake of changing. Most people start there going, hey, I've got a pain I want to get rid of, I've got a thing I want to change. And, you know, it's a great service to be able to facilitate somebody like that and have them change it, because usually after that they're like, I changed that, okay, what else you got? Because I want to change some other stuff, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you find that, because, you know, you're talking about bars, and the only I was just thinking bars, the thing that I connect with is the only time I've heard that is in the movies where they talk about the bar exam.
Right.
in I think it's law, becoming a lawyer or something. But can you go deeper in that and give us a little bit of an appreciation, understanding of what that actually means or entails?
Yeah, well, there's, and bars is one of about 8,000 tools that we have in Access. You know, it's grown over the last 30 years that it's been around. But bars is actually where it all started. And bars is 32 points on your head. And what happens is somebody just touches them really lightly. They touch different points. You know, they go from these to these to these, but they have names like joy and sadness, power, money, creativity, control, body, sexuality, aging. And what happens is, as far as we can tell, okay, when you hold your hand on a bar, whatever is associated with that subject, let's say joy and sadness, which are actually right here over the, I'm got to look at my camera to see where they're, right here over the middle of the eyebrows, right? And which is why, you know, when somebody's like, when they're stressed out, they're like, oh my God, Mama Mia. My sense is they're probably trying to activate these bars, is one way of looking at it, which what it does is they actually, there was an article in the New York Times many years ago, back in the 90s, right after bars came out. And they found that if you place an electrode over one side, you could, and stimulate it, you could give somebody several hours of joy. If you place an electrode over the other side and stimulate it, which is right over the sadness point, you could give somebody several hours of sadness. Well, what bars do is they seem to dissipate the electromagnetic component of thought, meaning they dissipate the polarity, the positive, the negative, the good, the bad, the right and wrong. So when you look at, let's say, the bar for money, rather than, oh, it's wrong, it's bad, it's good, you just go, oh, money, cool. When you have no point of view about it, then you actually have ease in having it, and it stops becoming a stress in your life. So, so what it does, this particular part seems to dynamically decrease stress, anxiety, and also depression in almost everybody who receives it. And once again, I'm not somebody who likes to sit here and overpromise and underdeliver. That is the antithesis of what I desire. I've had way too many things promised to me that didn't deliver, So I'm just saying this is one thing. This is one of the possibilities. This is one way of changing something that partially because you can't limit it cognitively. There's no way to limit it cognitively, unlike most things that we might choose, because you can't limit it cognitively. You can have something that transforms your sense of space and your sense of reality in a really wonderful way.
So I hear exactly what you're saying, but would you agree that in order for things to change, or in order for you to heal, or to be actually to experience the change, right? Would you agree that one has to believe in the change, has to be open to it? I mean, everything starts with a belief, right? And if you go into, say, for example, a workshop with you, and you're sitting there and you're dealing with stress and you're unhappy in your life and all this kind of stuff, and then you go through the tools, and one of them is doing the bars, and that specific person is like, nothing can help me, I can't change, I can't, is it a belief? Do you have to be open to this possibility? Because or is it just the fact that you're there, you're going to do this technique on me, and once you do it, even if I don't believe in it, it's going to work?
Well, a little of both. You're there. The thing is, you don't have to believe in it. You don't have to believe in anything like this, but you do have to have the willingness to have something change. Because there's certain people that are like, no matter what you do, I'm not changing because my girlfriend brought me here and I'm not going to change. So F you, and you're like, well, cool. Okay. Sorry you wasted your money. Here's your money back. Bye. It's like, so it's not, you don't have to believe in it, but you have to have a willingness to have something contribute to you,
Mm-hmm.
which most people at this point can at least start in that direction. But then as you see that something can change, that's when the light bulb moment happens, where the enthusiasm for the change itself starts to occur. Because I don't know about you, but I've done so many things that were so hard that I couldn't do them anymore. Or they were so hard, but they didn't produce enough result. I don't mind working. Okay. In fact, I am very happy to do the work. And with Access too, you got to do the work. You got to do the play, depending on how it works, but to do something where it takes up a significant portion of your life and creates very little result, that sucks. Who wants to do that? So the thing about Access is, do the work, but let's make sure it's actually creating the result. And what is the result? That you get lighter and lighter, that you start to get happier, that you have a sense of this area that may not have been working, it's starting to work better. You're interacting with it differently. And recognizing that, okay, cool, I can change things. And some people are content with changing one area, and then that's all they want. That's all the consciousness they want. And some people desire to become totally conscious. Well, whatever you desire, there's a way of getting there. And so, and the other thing I want to say is, Access consciousness is about getting you more conscious, more aware, which means undoing your fixed points of view about something, undoing your right and wrong, good and bad, the judgments about what's possible and what isn't. And because the only time we create a difficulty in our life is when we're functioning from unconsciousness, which is unawareness, or anti-consciousness, which is where we go against our awareness. And that's the only time we create a difficulty. So what Access does, all the Access tools undo the unawareness and get you to more consciousness and help you change your point of view also.
It's amazing. There's thousands. How many tools are there?
About 8,000 at this point.
Wow. There's a lot.
There's a lot,
awesome.
but it really is. It's like, you get them. It's like, okay, I did this. Okay, I got these tools. I'll use these for now. You know what I mean? You get a few at a time, and we just have a lot.
Yeah, that's great. So, Dr. Dain, tell us about this day that you created. Is it just in North America, or is it worldwide? What's the purpose of it? What's the purpose of it? And why is it so important to you in spreading this message?
Well, it's called International Being You Day, and this is the second, excuse me, the second annual International Being You Day. And this for me is a labor of love of magnitude. And because what I've seen is when people are invited or inspired to go on the journey of finding out what's true for them, their whole world transforms. And like you and I were speaking about before, when somebody has a sense of themselves, when somebody loves themselves, they show up differently in the world. And they show up in a way that contributes to everyone, not just them. But also they stop being a detractor in the world. They stop being somebody who brings other people down. They start being, just by their presence, whether they say something or not, they start being somebody that lifts others up. And, I wrote a book called Being You, Changing the World back in 2011. And the feedback that I got from that was that people were saying, wow, I want to thank you because I feel like I'm no longer alone. I feel like you're as weird as I am. And I finally have somebody who gets me. I'm like, yeah. And the number of people who said, I wanted to end my life before I read this book, and I don't anymore. I'm ready to live. And it's feedback like that, but also with facilitating people and seeing the dim behind their eyes go from dim to light. Seeing them actually go from kind of like this to like this. It's amazing to get a sense of that in their world, but also to get a sense of what it creates in the people around them. But also to recognize that the more people have that, the more people have access to them, the more people actually explore what is true for them, the greater their lives become. But if we had a world of people who were truly being them, there's not one of the things that we can look at right now that we would say, God, it'd be so nice if this didn't exist on our planet. Not one of those things would be existing. All of those things are existing because people are out of touch with who they are.
Powerful stuff, and it's amazing. Congratulations on all your success and everything that you've created, and having a day where you amplify the awareness to hey, be yourself, man. Like everybody else is taken. But it's cliche as much as it is, where you hear the statement, the truth will set you free. And I think that there's a lot of people out there inside, whether it's, communities or families or relationships of their own, that are not living their truth, that are really, and again, it's also the part of the fact that we're emotional beings and we want to feel part of something. We want to be connected to other people as well. But in doing that, there's also the lack of appreciation that you're then disconnected from yourself as well. And if you don't have the awareness of that, well, then you're not living in your truth and you're afraid. And so one of the experiences that I went through was, going through quite a long, extensive period of relationships and even rejections of people who I wanted to be with, girls who I wanted to be with. And it was like the universe was constantly leading me back to me. And eventually I woke up and I was like, okay, the one thing I haven't done is I haven't spent time with myself. I haven't said, okay, no more relationships. I'm going to be in a relationship with myself. And there's this fear, because we want to be wanted. We want to feel connected with people. We're emotional beings, right? So do you find that that's a struggle for people as well? Because they're not living in their truth, simply because obviously they care what other people think. They're worried about what other people are going to think of them, how they're going to be judged, how they're going to be perceived. How can we help people regain their confidence? Because that's really what it does take, a bit of that self-esteem, confidence, believing in yourself and saying, you know what, no, my truth is there. I feel it. It's deep rooted within me. And I've got to step out, because otherwise I'm drowning in my pain. And yeah, to go into that a little bit, Dr. Dain.
Well, that, for me, that what you're talking about and that getting to that place within you comes from that exploration of what's true for you and having a sense of that, like being familiar with that, having that be your best friend. And like you said, it's like we've been conditioned basically to give up us so we can have others. The funny part is that is such BS, because it doesn't work. Because if we're giving up us to have others and they're giving up them to have us, we've got two people who are now here and here instead of here and here the way they should be. And so that's actually part of the whole thing about creating International Being You Day, is inspiring people to go on a choose your own adventure. It's 24 hours.
I used to read those books. There was books when I was a kid. They were called
right?
Choose Your Own Adventure. Yeah.
And it's 24 hours of, and we've even started with different inspirational videos and, things that make you cry, things that make you smile, things that inspire you, things that make you want to, fist punch the air and go, yeah, that. Because the more of that we get in touch with, the more we recognize what's true for us. And the more we get to be us, because it's really about being us. Because it's one thing to mentally try to get there and project who we are. But like you said, we're not thinking creatures. We think a lot, but that's not when we're truly being us. When we're truly being us, we have a sense, we're sensing creatures. We're sensate creatures. We can call it emotional, we can call it, but it's like we have a presence with our being here with this body. And so those sorts of things that we can embrace. So the International Being You Day, it starts, get this, it starts on Australasia time. Just wanted to acknowledge that, because most everything that says it starts, because this starts on May 22nd, right?
Yep.
Most everything in the world that says it starts on May 22nd is like, by the way, for Australasia, that's May 23rd. This starts in Australasia time on May 22nd. 24 hours of different things. They change on the hour. Where you get to, and it might be as simple as go out in nature, feel the sand under your toes, or excuse me, start a gratitude list, connect with somebody and let them know you're grateful, all kinds of things. That, and then also at 1 p.m., I think on Houston time, very early your time, but 1 p.m. Houston time, I'll be doing an hour-long thing where I help people access more of it, what's up in the moment that we can access together, that allows us to go forward and be in touch with that. Even if it's just, I'd say even if it's just for a few minutes, but that doesn't tend to be the way it works. The way it tends to work is when you actually really get in touch with what's true for you, for the people that actually desire that, it becomes like a thing that propels them forward to more, because you can't, once you get it, you don't want to live without it, and getting it, getting the sense of it, at least, because it's a continuous journey. You're still on the journey. I'm still on the journey. Like I kind of feel like I'm just barely hitting my stride of this, after 22 years, and it just gets greater every friggin' day. So I know is a very long answer to your question, but that's also why I structured Being You Day the way that I did, because if you go there, go to beingyouday.com, there's already videos there. There's things that are like, hey, you matter, and here's some inspiration, and here's some off the wall stuff, and here's some joy, and like, hey, you're not alone. You're not alone. To be you, you don't have to be alone. In fact, when you truly be you, you realize you can't be alone.
You're never
and you're not
alone.
alone, and we're here. Yeah.
You're never alone. I mean, it's also like being afraid of, the one thing when I started to learn to love myself, for example, was that I realized how afraid I was of myself. And I stepped back and I thought to myself, come on, man, that doesn't make sense. You're afraid of being with yourself? Nah, man, come on. Like, you have to live with you for the rest of your life. Why would you be afraid of yourself? So what you're doing and being National Being You Day, it's powerful, because it's always like we're always looking at someone else as being greater than us or better than us or more intelligent than us. And it's like, man, celebrate yourself.
Yeah.
So I think that's freaking awesome, what you're doing. And I encourage everyone to go onto the website. What is it? beingyou.com.
beingyouday.com.
beingyouday.com. Dr. Dain, it's been honestly, like, it's been such a blessing to spend some precious time. I always emphasize time, because it's something that we can't get back, and it's how we really show up and use this beautiful experience of life in order to nourish ourselves and to grow and to connect with amazing people like yourself. It's really a privilege and an honor. I hope that in sometime in the future I'll be on stage maybe with you or at one of your workshops or something like that. Our paths will cross. I really look forward to that. I believe in possibilities like that. But just before we go, and also I will ask you to share where people can find more about you. What's some advice that you can give for me? This is me in my 4th year since I decided to make some really powerful changes. I know that I've grown massively in the last 4 years, if not in the last, a lot more, obviously in the last 12 months. But you've been on this journey for 22 years. What's one piece of advice that you can give me?
Well, how about 2?
Yeah,
one is
good.
Okay, why not? Get the sense of who you will be, because you ain't stopping on this journey. So get the sense of who you'll be 10 years in the future. Okay. It's bigger than that, my friend. It's bigger than that and getting closer. Bigger. I know it's kind of like, what? Wait. Okay. And this is purposely going beyond mind, right? Because we try to do it with our mind, but if you're actually going to do that, and it sounds crazy to ask somebody to perceive themselves 10 years in the future, which is part of the reason I'm doing it, because we always try to be logical and mental and only do what makes logical sense, which is eliminating every bit of magic that exists. And we are miraculous creatures. If anything, we are miraculous creatures. And that's the thing most of us have been missing. So with that awareness, get the sense of you as you're actually going to be, as you get over even more and embrace even more in 10 years. Okay, more like that. Do you notice that's got a sense of lightness to it?
Yeah, it's powerful.
Yeah, powerful and big ass. Yeah. Okay, cool. Now bring that you here, or shall I say at least closer to here. Like if it's on a timeline, bring it on the timeline as close as you can get it to here. Almost to where you could reach out and touch it. And then ask to be that. And then just go, anything that doesn't allow it, I'm willing to let it go. And I'm willing to be anything. I'm willing to do anything. I'm willing to change anything. I'm willing to gain anything. I'm willing to lose anything. I'm willing to gain anyone. I'm willing to lose anyone. Okay. Now, what I would normally do is this thing called a clearing statement, which we have, which is right and wrong, good and bad, pot and pock, all 9, shorts, boys, povads, and beyonds, which you can find at theclearingstatement.com, which is a way of changing things, which is something I use all the time. And then, and then the second is simply don't give up. Okay. So that was the first thing. Get you beyond the mental, get you in 10 years, bring that here. And then the other one is do not stop, do not quit, do not give up, and do not give in for anyone. Because what you're bringing to the world is too friggin' valuable.
Thank you.
Thank you. This has been truly, my friend, an honor and a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a privilege to spend time with you. Dr. Dain, where can people find you on your social media platforms, your website?
All that stuff. You can go to drdainheer.com. Also Facebook, same thing, Dr. Dain Heer. YouTube, Dr. Dain Heer.
Awesome.
Insta, I think is Dain Heer. But on YouTube, I've got, I don't know, something like 800 videos of different tools that are my gift to people. And also last year's Being You Day is up there that you can access from that Being You Day site. If you need some inspiration or some help, please check it all out. It's my gift to you.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, I'll make sure I put that in the show notes for everyone who's listening, and also in the description on YouTube as well. Dr. Dain, it's been an amazing experience. Thank you so much for your time. And I know that people are going to get so much value out of this podcast episode. So thank you so much.
Thanks so much, Luke.